Thousands of investors are earning interest on gold every month, while other investors are paying thousands in fees every month just to have their gold sit there. What separates these two groups? Understanding this basic, common, everyday business practice that you can do with your gold. One of the most common and important questions that we get all the time at Monetary Metals is, how does a gold lease work? Gold leasing may sound complex, but the reality is it's not a financial gimmick. It's a time-tested, proven financial practice used by businesses all over the world, and it's especially useful for financing the inventory for businesses, specifically those businesses that have high value items in their inventory. In fact, financial institutions have been leasing gold for decades. It's just that this kind of gold leasing was exclusively done with large banks, and in order to participate in those opportunities, you had to be among the ultra wealthy. These opportunities were not available to the public until Monetary Metals came along and democratized those opportunities and made leasing gold and silver available to anyone who can meet the account minimum. Monetary Metals gold leases generate a yield on gold paid in gold for our clients, while that gold is used to finance the work in progress or inventory of qualified companies in the precious metals industry. It's a way to financially support businesses in the precious metals industry, many of whom make the very same products that you love to purchase. Those businesses include mints, refiners, bullion dealers, and jewelry companies. Unlike dollar-based leases, Monetary Metals leases are denominated in gold and pay investors a return in gold. By participating in gold leases with Monetary Metals, clients enjoy outright ownership of their gold, the security of insurance, the ability to earn interest in gold every month, and watch their ounces compound every year. So why would anyone choose to store their gold when they could be leasing it with Monetary Metals for a 4% return like what we're offering right now? Because so few actually take the time to understand how gold leasing works. To help make it crystal clear, let's break down gold leasing using 3 real-world analogies. Analogy number 1, gold leasing is just like renting property. Imagine leasing an apartment or a car. You don't have to actually buy the entire asset in order to use it. If you think about it, in essence, leasing involves 2 parties, one owner and one user, and the leases benefit those 2 parties in different ways. The leasing party, in other words, the lessee, gets to use the asset without the upfront cost of buying it and then the ongoing hassle of maintaining it. The owner or lessor gets to generate income on that asset while retaining ownership. And what I've just described is the classic trade-off between buying or renting real estate. All human beings need a place to live. This is just a fact. And basically, there are 2 options available to us. Either save up enough money to buy a home or pay less money in smaller increments to rent or use the home. This is the classic trade-off between renting or buying property. Buying real estate requires a large upfront capital expenditure, and then you have the ongoing cost of maintaining that property. It takes a lot of time and energy to own and maintain real estate as an asset. Renting, on the other hand, often costs less in both time and money, but you still get the right to use that asset and you have a place to live in. This same trade-off exists for cars too, by the way. While the value of the car behaves a little bit differently than the value of real estate, the same trade-off and risk-reward exists. Owners of vehicles are willing to take the price risk of a depreciating vehicle while earning income on that asset, while renters, for whatever reason, don't want to take on that risk and would prefer to just rent the vehicle to use it. Owners are willing to take on the price risk, whereas renters are foregoing the price risk, but still are paying to be able to use the vehicle. This same dynamic is exactly what happens with gold leasing. Businesses lease the amount of gold that they need without having to pay the upfront cost of purchasing it and the ongoing hassle of managing gold price volatility. Whereas you, the lessor, the owner of the gold, get to earn an income on your gold without giving up ownership. If gold companies choose not to lease and to buy the gold themselves, they're tying up valuable capital in their inventory, and it exposes them to the gold price. Leasing the gold instead of buying it helps these businesses to be more agile and nimble financially. Meanwhile, you are the true owner of record of the gold in the lease, and the business is simply paying you rent to use it in gold. Now, there are some important differences. Traditional landlords earn their rent in dollars. They don't earn it in additional square footage. You can't pay your rent in real estate, which is how we do our gold leases, right? Gold leases pay an interest in gold. You can't actually pay rent in additional square footage of real estate. Because of that, when you earn the income in a gold lease, you're actually earning in gold. So any price fluctuations of gold are all yours too. For example, if you put 100 ounces of gold into a lease and the interest rate is 4%, those 4 additional ounces that you've earned, that's real gold that you really own. So whatever the price of gold is doing at that time, that's all yours. That component is present in our gold leases, but since traditional rental properties just pay dollars, they don't have that price component to worry about. Our gold leases often come backed with a personal and or corporate guarantee by the leasing business. That's something that you may not find in the rental property world. All right, time to move on to real world analogy number 2, floor planning at car dealerships. Let's talk a little bit about what we mean by floor planning in the car dealership world. The purpose of floor planning for dealers, it allows them to carry large amounts of inventory on their lots without tying up a huge amount of cash. You probably know why. If you had a choice between buying a car at a lot that had a ton of cars versus a lot that had hardly any cars, which one would you rather choose from? We all like more options, right? We're all going to go to the dealer that has the widest and greatest selection of vehicles to purchase from. So the purpose of floor planning is to give dealers the ability to hold a lot more inventory, but without them having to buy all that inventory at once. The way it works is that a manufacturer, often working with another financial institution, is going to extend a line of credit to the dealer based on the amount of inventory that they want to hold on their lot. The vehicles themselves are the assets that back this line of credit. As long as those vehicles stay on the lot and don't get sold, the dealer has to pay interest to have those vehicles remain on the lot. It's basically like the dealer is renting all those vehicles from the manufacturer until they're sold. Once a vehicle is sold, the dealer has to pay down the credit line immediately. In the industry, this is called a curtailment. It specifically refers to the specific payment that must be made when each vehicle is sold. Once that payment occurs, it allows them to draw down on the credit line again and replenish their inventory. And that process repeats for each new sale of vehicle and each new restocking. Now, how does this compare with gold leasing at Monetary Metals? Well, in both cases, the business is simply renting to use the asset. They don't own it outright. They're also both paying interest to use that asset and not tying up large amounts of capital. This arrangement enables the business owners to focus on operational excellence and profitability, not speculating on an asset value, and in the case of floor planning with dealerships, not speculating on how many cars they might need and how much capital that's going to tie up based on seasonality with car purchases. And lastly, the owner of the asset receives an income for the use of that asset. In the case of the floor planning, it's the manufacturers who can get an immediate income on those cars that they've built until they're sold. In the case of gold leasing, gold owners are able to earn an income while the business uses that gold in the lease. It's similar in that dealers pay interest on their inventory just the same way that the businesses pay interest on the gold that they use as inventory. It keeps the businesses focused on generating more sales, not speculating on an asset value or speculating on seasonality and how they might have to allocate capital to deal with that seasonality. There's some key differences to be aware of here as well. In Monetary Metals leases, we require all lessees to have at least 110% of the lease amount of gold available at all times. So we build in a buffer to our leases. That buffer may not be required of floor planning models. Another key difference is that in the floor planning model, the dealer can sell the car, make the financing payment, and then replace the car later. In a Monetary Metals lease, we actually require lessees to replace the gold first before they sell it to a customer so that 100% of the lease metal is available in inventory at all times. We structure our leases to make sure that gold in the lease is replaced first before it ever ships out to a customer. So there's never a time where the lease amount is below 100%. This adds an additional measure of safety for our clients, and it also ensures greater accountability from the leasing business. All right, moving on to real world analogy number 3, the jewelry display case profit model. Let's go one step deeper. Let's imagine a jewelry store with a display case full of jewelry, all of which is part of a monetary metals lease. Now, here's the thing. If the jeweler had to buy all of that jewelry up front, not only would they be sinking lots of capital into that inventory, but they'd be exposed to the gold price immediately on day one of that purchase. This is capital that they could be used for marketing, increasing sales, business expansion, a number of different things. Buying the gold outright exposes them to price risk. If gold rises or falls, that all translates down to their bottom line. Leasing the gold enables them to get the gold they need without having to worry about all those price fluctuations. In other words, they can get the gold they need without having to worry if they're going to live or die, feast or famine, based on what the gold price does. This leased gold is still on display, it's still available to customers, and as soon as a customer buys it, they can take the customer's funds, replace that gold jewelry in the case, and then hand the other one to the customer, fulfilling the customer's order while maintaining the entire amount of inventory in the monetary metals gold lease. All they have to do is pay a simple annual fee to have the amount of gold that they need in that display case for their business. This is a much more manageable way of doing business for the leasing company, and it makes them operationally more efficient. Let's actually examine how leasing impacts the bottom line in terms of profitability for a gold jewelry owner who leases gold versus a gold jewelry owner who doesn't lease gold. And let's assume for this example that the average markup for both of these jewelry owners is $1,000. So whatever they're buying for their business, they're adding $1,000 onto it to make their profit. Now, in scenario A, the jewelry owner buys the gold outright. And let's say he buys the gold at $2,000 an ounce. He adds his $1,000 of markup, and the gold price goes up to $3,000 an ounce at the time of sale. So when he sells that gold, he's now profiting $2,000. So that's if the gold price rises. What about if the gold price falls? So he buys at $2,000 an ounce. He adds $1,000 of markup on top of that. And then the gold price falls to $1,000 an ounce. So he's basically selling at $2,000 an ounce, which means he makes zero profit. As you can see, for this jeweler, they're either winning or losing based only on the price of gold. It's not about their craftsmanship, their marketing ability, their differentiation in the market, or any other value-added services they may bring. Their profitability is purely based on whether the gold price rises or falls. Now let's look at scenario B, a jewelry company that leases the gold instead of buying it outright. Let's say they pay 4% annually to lease the gold, which translates to 1% every 90 days. If the gold price rises to $3,000 and they add their $1,000 markup, they sell the gold for $4,000, but they have to pay that lease fee, which is $40 over that 90-day period. That gives them a profit of $960 after that transaction. Now, if the gold price drops to $1,000 and they add their $1,000 markup, they're selling their gold at $2,000 an ounce, but they still have to pay their lease fee. Because the gold price is now lower, that lease fee only translates to $10. So their profit in that scenario is still $990, even though the gold price fell by 50%. As you can see in this model, the jewelry makes a profit whether the gold price goes up or goes down. In other words, the jewelry company is getting compensated for the value that they add as a jewelry company, not if they time the gold market right. This certainty and surety that they're going to make a profit in whatever gold price environment is the real reason why companies want to lease metal. Leasing the gold eliminates price risk and provides stable margins that the company can rely on regardless of the broader market environment for gold. Sophisticated businesses will choose stable profit margins over high risk, high reward speculation any day of the week. And what's even better is they don't have to tie up that initial capital in their inventory. That capital that they were going to put into their inventory if they bought it can now go into other areas of the business to help grow the business, increase sales, and make more money. In other words, when the jewelry company chooses to lease gold, they're making a decision to build a scalable business, not a speculative business. The reality is, once you have an understanding of how gold leasing works, you can now turn a static and idle asset into a productive asset by putting it into a gold lease. The gold lease provides important operating capital and financing to qualified businesses who need it while at the same time generating you real returns in a real asset. Lease financing also avoids the common pitfalls associated with other forms of conventional financing, such as debt, which weighs down the balance sheet and damages financial ratios, or equity capital, which dilutes the owners. Leasing provides vital capital to businesses who want to avoid taking on debt and diluting their equity. When you lease gold, over time, your total ounces grow and they compound every year. It's a way for you to unlock the power of compound interest in physical gold and silver. This is a natural fit for long-term gold holders. We certainly wouldn't recommend you consider leasing if you're looking to trade or speculate on gold prices. But if you're looking to own gold for the long term, this is a great way to turn some of your holdings into a productive asset and actually generate more gold for you over time. And of course, you don't lose any dollar price gains if you lease your metal. If the gold price goes up while your metal's on lease, that all comes back to you. So you're not losing any of the speculative benefits of gold. You get those too, but what you are gaining is the ability to earn more gold on your gold. As you can see, gold leasing isn't just some financial gimmick or some kind of financial engineering where the gold's getting papered over, hypothecated, sold, traded, or manipulated in any way. No. In reality, gold leasing provides real tangible benefits to the companies leasing the metal and to the owners of the metal when they put it in a lease. While we discussed 3 real-world analogies, the reality is we could have chosen a lot more. Leasing of inventory exists in a number of different markets, and once you become aware of it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Other examples that we could have chosen but we didn't include big box retailers of high-end electronics. Think Best Buy with manufacturers like Sony and LG. Wine is another industry that uses leasing as a way to stock inventory. An additional industry would be high-end luxury retail wear. Perhaps you've heard of the company called Rent the Runway, where this is a literal example of you renting an asset, in this case, dresses, shoes, jewelry, and other accessories to achieve a look that you otherwise couldn't afford. In our leases, your gold stays allocated, insured, and titled to you at all times. Our lease opportunities are carefully vetted, legally secured, and come with an independent third-party security facilitator that tracks the gold inventory in real time, 24/7, 365, using state-of-the-art RFID technology. Join a growing community of clients all over the world who are putting their metal to work and watching their accounts grow, not just in dollar terms, but in real physical ounces of gold and silver. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment and consider hitting like and subscribing to our channel. It lets us know this content was valuable and it'll help others find it too. Thanks.